I'm Jamie, aka Scumboy.
I'm Andrew Walsh, aka Bat Phantom.
I'm Kevin, aka Neon Nazgul from the Operation Pug Podcast.
A proud member of the Gonna Geek Network.
Just like the show you're listening to now.
The opinions expressed are those of each individual host.
Check out all the podcasts at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
And get ready because geekiness begins in 3,
2,
1.
This is it. The part of your week where you get to put your headphones on, relax, and listen to a bunch of geeks geek out about geeky things. They're witty.
He loves him some Katy Perry because she kissed a girl and she liked it.
They're crazy.
I like Nickelback personally, but, I'm the fuddy-duddy who likes episode 1.
And sometimes I leave you wondering, what the f***?
I'm pretty sure that here we were starting the hashtag movement, Bring Back Slave Ferrell.
Gonna Geek Productions presents the official GonnaGeek.com show.
Hello and welcome to episode 195 of the official GonnaGeek.com show. I am Stephen Jondrew, and with me, of course, is the one and only Stargate Pioneer.
It's SP and genuine SP, and it's been a great week. Can't wait to get to the rest of the show. We've got some exciting stuff going on, and you're going to want to stick around for it.
We also have with us, of course, Chris Ferrell.
I greatly dislike Skype.
And finally, we have a guest here again. You might recognize him from a long time ago, but he is coming to you live from space. We have, of course, Nate.
What's up, everybody? It's Nate the Ninja Fat Man here, saying hello.
By the way, Nate, occasionally when you just get in the right spot, you kind of end up a little bit translucent in your head. I'm just wondering, are aliens attacking you right now? Is that what's going on? Are they probing you through there?
We don't talk about what's going on or bad things happen.
Oh, yes, Nate is a member of the Gonna Geek Network, and he's working on some projects right now of some possible shows that are going to hit the interwebs at one point, but we won't make him spill the secrets here, but we'll just tease that. Nate, but I will give you a moment to tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
What's up? I am a longtime gamer and a game developer. So I like making games and playing games, and I love everything pop culture. So that's kind of the focus of everything I want to do podcasts about and talk about.
That's awesome. And we like having your kind here because the three of us don't like anything about pop culture or anything remotely geeky.
Not at all.
Yeah, I got you covered.
You're kind? Are you implying that he's a member of a different species?
He is in space right now with no spacesuit. So I believe that, yes, that is what I'm saying. He is.
He could be behind the big observational window.
I'm trying not to talk about the fact that he is Superman, okay? Let's
SP, I'm in space, just deal with it.
I'm so jealous.
Oh, Nate, you know what I'll do for you right now? Give you one of those. There you go.
Yes.
All right. So we got a fun episode today, but before we get there, I just want to take a moment to remind everybody that we are part of the Gonna Geek Network. And also on the Gonna Geek Network is the show called Better Podcasting. And in a recent episode of Better Podcasting, they ended up turning the floor to their listeners to talk all about what a podcaster's first questions were. So check that out at GonnaGeekNetwork.com. But let's move into the news. Here we go. So, if there is one thing that you can bet on, it is that SP can tell you when a man is ginormous. He's going to tell you all about how Paul Allen is ginormous.
Paul Allen was ginormous, but then he did Dancing with the Stars, and he lost a few pounds, and he was better off for it. And we were better off once he was voted off Dancing with the Stars as well. I mean, A for effort, but the man needs a little bit more experience on the dance floor. But what he does not need experience with is getting money, because the man's a billionaire. And what do all the cool billionaires do nowadays? They start their own space launch company, which is what Paul Allen's been doing quietly since 2011. What he did is he decided to make the biggest plane ever. It's called the Stratolaunch. It was unveiled at the Mojave Spaceport last week on the 31st of May. This thing it's incredible. It weighs 1.2 million pounds. You know how big that is? That is the equivalent of 240 2017 GMC Sierra 4x4s. That's how big this thing is. 240 of those puppies. It has a wingspan of 385 feet, which means it is wider than a football field. It cruises to a launch altitude of 30,000 feet, where it can launch not one, not two, but 3 Pegasus XL air-launched rockets to launch a satellite up into space. It has a total of 28 wheels, landing wheels, whatever you want to call it. It was built by Scaled Composites, which is Burt Rutan's founding company, and it also made Spaceship One and Spaceship Two, so they have a little experience doing this sort of thing. It is powered by not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, but 6 Pratt & Whitney PW 4056 jet engines, each of which have a thrust of 56,000 pounds. So the total thrust of this thing is 336,000 pounds. It requires 2.5 miles of runway just to take off. This thing is massive. Nate, what's the first thing you thought when you saw this thing?
It's a silly question. Well, it's ridiculously large, but the question I had, because it's a dual hull plane, was can you go between the 2 hulls? Looks like there's 2 cockpits.
That's a great question, and I think Iron Man could actually go back and forth in flight. I think he could actually do that, but I'm not sure if there's 2 complete cockpit controls, but it did take the control systems in order to simplify construction out of not one but 2 Boeing 747-400s, which included the engine, avionics, flight deck, landing gear, and other systems. And the 2 Boeing 747s were tail numbers 28715 and 28716. They were bought and taken to Mojave Air and Spaceport for the cannibalization. Now, this thing is bankrolled by Paul Allen. We mentioned that before. And the CEO of Stratolaunch Systems Corporation made a couple of statements. His first statement was, quote, "We're excited to announce that Stratolaunch aircraft has reached a major milestone in its journey towards providing convenient, reliable, and routine access to low Earth orbit. This marks the completion of the initial aircraft construction phase and the beginning of the aircraft ground and flight testing phase." Now, we have seen some not so positive results come out of the Mojave Air and Spaceport recently. VSS Enterprise come to mind. So Floyd continued and he said, quote, "Over the coming weeks and months, we'll be actively conducting ground and flight line testing at the Mojave Air and Spaceport. This is to continue to prioritize the safety of our pilots, crew, and staff. Stratolaunch is on track to perform its first launch demonstration as early as 2019. And Chris, if you could get into that second cockpit to watch that launch, would you do that?
Maybe. It
I think
depends
a lot
on
of
how adventurous I'm feeling.
I think a lot of people would. So they've created their own sort of space tourism to actually go up on the plane to watch the launch at 30,000 feet. So
See, I would do it after the initial launch. I don't know if I want to be up there on one of the first few of those, just in case.
probably true. Steven, what do you think of this ginormous Paul Allen?
I gotta say, it's a letdown. Why do 2 when you can do 3? That's why. Come on, anybody can do 2 planes put together. I want to see 3.
Well, it can launch 3 rockets at the same time.
No, I want to see it look like 3. I want 3 cockpits. The more cockpits, the better.
I see. Well, to give everybody a little history lesson, this is not the first time the Pegasus launch vehicle has been launched from an aircraft. It was first done by a B-52, and then it was transferred to a L-1011. So this is just the next generation of air launch vehicle for the Pegasus XL rocket.
So like a Love Shack? Is that what you mean? B-52?
That's exactly what a B-52
Right.
is.
That's what you mean, right? You're talking about the band, right?
I'm talking about, yeah, sure. We'll go with that. We'll run with that with you, Mr. Canuckian.
Oh, no, seriously though, this is fantastic. This, I don't know. This thing here, the only real thing that came to mind was OMG. You know, like it is insane. I am very impressed, and I can't wait for it to be parked in my backyard.
You have a big backyard.
I do.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I don't.
Think of all the igloos you could fit in between those big holes.
Might have to take out all of my neighbors, but you know, why not?
They don't like you anyways after your light show of Christmas time.
That's true. That's very true. In fact, fun fact, got a couple of new neighbors, and both of them, before I even talked to them, knew about my Christmas display. Yep. True fact.
You're that guy.
True
You're
fact.
the Tim Taylor of your neighborhood.
I am, and I'm proud of it. But thanks very much for this, SP. And let's go ahead and move on to the next news point, which comes courtesy of this guy. That's right. As you know, I am Canadian, so I was very excited for Canada to get with the times. Apparently, Android Pay, the service that has been around for a while because Apple went and made Apple Pay. So, of course, Google's going to go and make Android Pay. So, finally came to Canada, and also this is part of a rollout with some other countries and whatnot that are also getting this. So Android Pay is finally coming to some other countries, and this is very exciting for me because, like I said, I am Canadian, but also because it seems like a lot of these new features are often neglected from places outside of the States, and I like seeing some of them push forward because it goes to show that the other markets are being considered. Now, gotta say, if you steal my phone, you can buy all sorts of stuff because I've been using it this week, and I do have my credit card on there. And with Android Pay, that's the only thing that I got a question mark on there is they do kind of go off the philosophy of regular tap cards where there's a certain threshold before you need to actually authorize it. So you just have to light up the screen and it'll pay under a certain threshold. And so you don't need to verify it. Nope. Chris is looking.
What threshold are you using then? Because I've had it make me swipe my fingerprint for $3 at the grocery store before.
It could be a country difference too, because in Canada, I know in Canada, I'll give you an example. With regular tap cards, you can pay up to $200 without your chip at Costco.
I don't know what a tap card is, Stephen. We don't have those here in America.
Do you not have those there?
I don't think so.
What?
I don't know. The definition is escaping me. What's a tap card?
Like up here, they call it like PayPass. Like they're basically NFC within your card. You guys don't have that there. This is mind blowing to me.
They do, but it's not a Canada versus US joke. But it went away like 5 years ago. Like when
really?
I worked in retail and they had tap. Yeah, they had cards you could tap. But that's honestly gone away since the new chip technology and then also phones and stuff coming in. So tap cards are really, I had them a long time ago, but then they replaced it when they went with the chips.
You mean the technology that you could just wave the card over the reader?
Yeah.
Like an RFID reader?
Yeah.
Yeah, that went away years ago, Stephen.
That's bizarre, though. That's bizarre because that's actually
It could be because of what you just described.
No, it's because it's right in, it could very well be, but it's right in line with Android Pay and Apple Pay, right? Like it's the exact same concept. So I'm shocked that it's gone from there because it is the exact same idea as far as convenience.
Well, originally the tap cards had the issue of someone with a scanner could get close to you, and swipe. But with a phone, it has to be activated. So anyways, that's the thing is, here, at least in Canada, you don't have to at certain vendors. And I got to say, I haven't had to unlock my phone yet. And I just pumped gas this morning. It was pretty off to $200. So obviously, there's some protection differences. I think that it just probably comes down to okay, SP's asking questions. Now let's turn this into an episode all about Canada versus US financial.
No, this is nothing about Canada and U.S. Well, maybe it is, but you actually pump your gas. You mentioned you pump the gas. Do you actually have mechanical pumps?
Yes.
Or
No.
has the electrical pumps reached the igloo land of Canada.
Electrical pumps? This is new technology to me. You don't have to turn the thing?
Why do you think Steven
The
had
big
kids? It
glass
was to
jar at
pump
the
his
top.
gas.
Yeah.
Glass
Wow.
jar. I did use that on the farm, by the way. The glass jar one. Yeah, that's going
So I rolled
back
down
a
my
few
window
decades.
and then I pumped my gas. No. So anyways, it's a very interesting thing though to see this finally come because it is well overdue. And my understanding is that Canada has some very strict restrictions with any of these. And I know Neil from the Financial Nerve Center will be able to tell us all about it, but there are some restrictions all about financial institutions. And that's why like Apple Pay only came to Canada a year ago as well, because there's a lot of things they have to meet. But the point of the matter is that I'm glad to see it finally rolling out to other countries because it's not just Canada. And I love how convenient it is just to have my payment on my phone so that anybody can get my phone can charge my credit card.
So, Steven, what I'm hearing here is next time I'm set to get my paycheck from Gonna Geek, you can send it to me via Android Pay now instead of PayPal.
Can we? Can we?
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's do it right now. Send me my paycheck right now so
Yeah.
I can get
Will it allow me to send an American 1 cent US or Canadian? Will it allow that?
I don't know.
I didn't think Canada had 1 cent anymore.
Well, now I'm okay. Now to hell with my story because I'm very fascinated about this pre-auth difference between the two. Because yeah, in Canada, and my dad actually was trying it as well this weekend, and he said there was one retailer out of his entire test run that he had to unlock his phone, and it was me. It was nobody, and I've tried a whole bunch of different things. So just interesting to see. I personally though would like to be able to enable that, and I haven't been able to locate that. I haven't been able to see how I can force it to always authorize.
Every place I've used Android Pay, it's made me use my fingerprint to confirm that I was paying and to confirm the transaction, and then popped up a confirmation screen on screen for Android Pay.
Nope. All I got to do is wake up the screen. Don't even need to unlock it. Just wake up the screen. That's all I have to do.
That's really odd.
And it's advertised in the rollout for the Canadian version. It says, wake up your screen.
So
at some purchases, you'll have to sign in.
Did you use your fingerprint to wake up your screen?
Nope.
Oh.
No,
well,
it
then
actually...
I have no clue.
Nope. It's completely different in Canada, which means that we're going to have to cycle back. We'll do some research. I didn't realize this was not like this in the States. Again, we are very much into contactless payment up here. It is still a big thing, and it's just getting bigger and bigger. And so I guess maybe there is different rules and different protections or something. I don't know.
Well, of course. I mean, if it's cold enough up there for stuff to freeze together when you're doing the contact, you need to have contactless things. Otherwise, you're going to lose limbs and tongues and everything else when you make contact with the payment reader.
And by the way, in the chat, Dana is saying, I'm pretty sure Apple has to use its fingerprint. That is true. From what I've seen, even in Canada, they do have it set up like that way. But again, I'm not sure. It could be different. I'll go back to that Costco example. Up here in Canada, you can buy up to $200 at Costco if you steal somebody's card.
What does $200 worth of maple syrup look like?
Oh, that is all that.
tablespoon.
It's you guys serve more than just maple syrup at your Costco's? That's all we have here.
You can fill a bathtub with it and then just roll around. Just don't turn on the jets if you have a jet tub.
All right, well, let's move on to the next thing here, and let's find out. Nate, can I use my Android Pay to pay for my Nintendo Switch service?
No, you cannot. So, there's two parts to this. So, Nintendo Switch, which is the newest device from Nintendo, which is a console and a handheld kind of in one, announced an online service. So, it's going to be for Switch only. A lot of people asked if it was going to work for Wii U or the 3DS line of devices, and they've said, nope, this is a Switch only thing. What it's going to do is it's kind of what Xbox Live does, to use a Microsoft example. They'll be chatting. They'll have things they call play appointments, and then there'll be co-op and competitive games that they're going to have through this service. Now, initially, some of the features are going to be available now for free. The chat online, the play appointments, and the co-op and competitive stuff will be free until the actual service launches next year. But what the service gets you is not only those kind of Xbox Live features, they also have previous libraries. So they're starting off with Nintendo games. So they teased Super Mario Bros. 3, Balloon Fight, Dr. Mario, As long as you pay for the service, you can download these games and play them at any point. And which is kind of exciting. They did release the price points also. So for 1 month at a time, it's $3.99. For 3 months at a time, it's $7.99. This is all US prices. And then 1 year, it's $20 for the whole year. And this is kind of exciting as they prove with the NES Classic that people want to play some of those first gen games. But this is where, being in outer space so long, I want to put on my tinfoil hat. I have a feeling this service is what killed the Nintendo Classic, because people were buying it for $39.99 once, where now they can get people on a recurring subscription for the same product, basically to encourage sales of the Nintendo Switch.
I have a question. Have they fixed the voice chat feature on Switch yet? Have they come up with some sort of technique to do that?
I don't have the Switch yet.
Don't bait the trolls.
As I look over at my wife.
I have another question. I've heard rumors, by the way, and these are just rumors, but I've heard rumors that Sony is going to make a handheld PS4. Have you guys heard anything about that?
I have not heard that. I know the Vita has had mixed success over its life cycle, so they're due for something new, but a PS4, that would be big, just from a hardware standpoint.
If it was small,
yeah,
it was just running hot.
Cooling would be an issue.
I guess it is possible. I'm trying to think here because that PS4 came out 3 years ago now. So
yeah,
has
really
3 years ago technology really shrunk that much that it could go down to handheld? It feels like it feels like it couldn't be.
The graphics processor would be the interesting thing, because I've seen the mobile versions for laptops of some of the 9 series like NVIDIA cards, and that still, they get hot though. My cooling would be the thing that would be very interesting on a handheld.
Cooling and power. That thing would be power hungry.
Yep. Would indeed. Which one would you rather have though? Would you rather have a handheld Switch or a handheld PS4 sort of device?
For the handheld world, I like Nintendo's IPs better. So Mario, Smash Brothers, Mario Kart, stuff like that. I'd rather play those on a handheld. And then, I couldn't imagine playing like God of War on a handheld and get the same quality experience as I would on, big screen TV.
And Nintendo's also great with the social gaming aspect of it. I love what they've done with the Switch. All right, I'm going to go sit and I'm going to go and take my Switch with me to the movie theater. And while I'm waiting for the movie to start, there's 2 other guys there with a Switch so we can have an ad hoc game over a makeshift Wi-Fi network now. That is awesome. And that's the kind of thing you can do with those Nintendo games because they're set up real well for a quick, just fun, impromptu game.
Yeah, I gotta say the same thing, that they're very sort of different playability between a PlayStation 4 and something handheld that's successful. And I think that would be a bit of a misstep for Sony personally. I do. I think that their PS4 market is very much controller and TV. I think it would be very, I don't know, because they're very one of the graphics intent platforms, right? So I don't know that it would translate to small handheld. But I would be interested to see what they could do and how much they could do it for, of course.
Yeah. And Nintendo dominates the handheld market so severely that I don't know that Sony could really get market share to make it cost effective as well.
Microsoft's explored doing the same thing a few times also, and nothing's really come of it. The Xbox Portable got rumored a few years back multiple times. It's real tough to get into the handheld market.
Well, I think what we need to do, Nate, since you don't have a Switch yet, is that right? You don't have a Switch?
Correct. I don't have a Switch yet. Father's Day's coming.
So we'll have to put it on the next SpaceX resupply capsule and get it up to you on whatever spaceship or space station you happen to be orbiting the Earth. Because I can clearly see it's the Earth behind you. I don't think it's Earth. I think it's Earth behind you. There might be a glow from the moon off to the left-hand side there.
Yeah, it's the sun, and I'm on asteroid M. So, yeah.
You know what, though? I want to know, when exactly are we going to end up with a game for the Switch that is based off of the Blade series? Because then we can have a Switch Blade.
That's a knee slapper right there, Steven.
I just want you to know that I heard what you said.
You just didn't acknowledge it. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's the right answer. Come on, Chris SB.
I wish I didn't hear what he said.
Okay, so speaking of wishing if you didn't hear things, Chris, tell us what we wish we didn't hear.
This is the best segue ever, Steven. So if you weren't aware, today was the Worldwide Developer Conference. That's when Apple unveils a bunch of new software, some new hardware, things like that. I wasn't even going to bring it up until about 45 minutes to maybe an hour and a half before the show. I was going through my news stories and I saw, hey, Apple unveiled this product. And I looked at it and I had to go, what is Apple thinking? So let's talk about what Apple revealed today. Numerous things, but what I want to talk to you guys about is they took the wraps off the oft-rumored speaker that they're calling the HomePod. This device acts as a standalone way for users to interact with Siri, play music, and do even more. Tim Cook said this is Apple's effort to, quote, reinvent home music, end quote, just like they did with the iPad and with products like the iPad. So as if that doesn't sound like they're setting the bar super high. Now here's some details on the HomePod. To offer strong sound quality, it features a 7-tweeter array with precision acoustic horns and directional control. There's also an Apple-designed 4-inch woofer, and the whole device is powered by Apple's A8 custom processor. That is the same processor you have in phones like the iPhone 6 and the 6 Plus. The device will be just under 7 inches tall and will have a mesh design. Let's get a little more details on the HomePod. On top of it, similar to what you'll see in a Google Home, is a light array that will flash when the keyword is triggered. In this case, it is Hey Siri. Phil Schiller, part of the Apple management team, said the Apple Siri team has worked to integrate all sorts of music-based actions, such as asking who is playing a specific instrument on a track. This makes sense because remember, Apple Music is their service they're heavily pushing. It's going to be deeply integrated into the HomePod. At this point, we don't know whether Spotify will be integrated or be playable through there. Things like iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Amazon Music, Google Music. No clue if you'll be able to do that, or if you'll even be able to connect your phone via Bluetooth and play over this device. Don't know a ton, but what can the HomePod do? According to Apple, it will integrate with HomeKit. It'll either act as a HomeKit hub or access to HomeKit itself. They've said, here are the things that HomePod is going to be great for. Great, they say. Music, news, unit conversion, messages, reminders, podcasts, timers, stocks, general knowledge, weather, traffic, sports, and events going on nearby. So lots of things it'll do. They did say the HomePod will start listening only when the Hey Siri prompt comes up, and from there it uses local recognition and sends an anonymous ID to Apple servers over an encrypted connection. So there's your privacy concerns addressed. HomePod will be coming out in the US, United Kingdom, and Australia this December in both white and space gray colors. Additional countries later this year. And here comes the WTF moment I had, the price tag. Before I announce it, if any of you guys haven't seen the article yet, how much do you think this HomePod is going to cost? And just for comparison's sake, remember, an Amazon Voice Services device, the Big Echo, cost what, $180? Google Home cost $120. An Echo Dot costs $50. So what do you guys think Apple's HomePod is going to cost? I see in the chat room, Wayne says $899.
So I saw your reaction when you're like, WTF, Apple. And then I said, put that in the doc. And I didn't see how much it was. I didn't look because I'm lazy. And I want to guess, okay, $329.
$329 from Steven. Anyone else want to hazard a guess?
Well, I actually... Go ahead.
Okay, if you know the answer, don't hazard a guess. That's no fun.
I know the answer, but I will tell you how much I'm willing to pay, and that is $150. I mean, 180 is even a stretch, but $150, that's all I'm going to pay for something like this. Because remember, I've been using one for about 6 months now. I know what one can do, what the limits are, what they're not. So that is what I'm willing to pay, is $150. And oh, by the way, maybe 180. And the reason why is because the cover songs that you get sometimes from Amazon are a little funky. They're not the real thing, or the 30-second snippets. So maybe Apple will actually have the whole song. So that's worth $30 more to me.
Yeah. So Albert in the chat room nailed it. It is $350. for the Apple HomeKit because they engineered you this great sound experience. They made the best sounding portable speaker ever, where I'm going, you know what? I can just go buy an Amazon device for 150 to 40. There's 3 different Amazon devices I could buy. You could go and buy the new Amazon Echo, which is going to have a camera in it and touch screen for less than what this speaker pod touches. I have no idea where this price point came from and how you can justify this other than just the Apple luxury tax. Am I just out of my mind here? Am I being way too critical on Apple, or is this just ridiculous for jumping into the virtual assistant speaker market?
This is not like the Apple Watch, where you had other watch like the Pebble Watch and other watches out there, and Apple coming in saying, hey, look, we can give you all this great stuff in our watch and we'll actually charge double of or triple of what you get. This is not the same thing. There is nothing, in my opinion, that this Apple speaker, whatever you want to call it, HomePod or whatever, is going to do that I can't get with another device like the Amazon Echo, like the Google Home. There's nothing. I don't know who's in charge of Apple right now that thinks this is a great idea. I don't think this was Tim's idea. And if it was, he is completely disconnected with the average person.
Yeah, they're obviously going for the diehard Apple fans. Like, I think that's very clear here. They're banking on the people who are already in the infrastructure and are going to do it. So I do want to also remind us that we have est all over the ear pods, and we have questioned them. We have wondered why they were so pricey. We would say nobody bought them, and I will tell you that one person on this podcast owns a pair, and they have actually been, as far as the success goes, it has been measured as success. So it shows that yes, it is crazy, but they can do it.
$350 though, in a market where there's tons of competition, that's tough.
So for me, like the Apple Watch, part of the price tag is also the style aspect of it, right? People look at an Apple Watch and go, "Oh, it's an Apple." iPhone's kind of the same things. Things that are portable, I've understood that Apple charges a premium because it's part of it's a symbol almost of, what's cool. This stays in your house the whole time. It's never going to leave your house, and I don't believe there is any way they can somehow have engineered speakers that are that much better. Now, however, that being said, they do own Beats. So I'm assuming that's going to be, Beats technology will be in this thing. But even that, I'm thinking like a $229 or $249 price tag, not jumping to the cost of 2 Echoes and a Dot. I don't see that being reasonable.
Ooh, I got a question. Who on this podcast with Beats headphones? Anyone?
Different purpose though, SP. It's not a fair comparison. And you got to remember the Beats headphones are geared towards a certain market. There are tons of audiophiles that will, again, S all over them all day, and S meaning crap. And they will do that all day, but they are very successful because there are people who like that. So I don't think that your comparison is fair. And I agree. I think they are even high for Apple's pricing. I do. I really think that they probably could have pulled off $299 maybe. I think they're still going to sell these. I think $299 would have been slightly less head turning, but still head turning. And I just think that I don't know, maybe I would give them, I'm not, you know me. Okay, this is weird because I'm not an Apple fanboy. I don't like Apple generally, but I will give credit where credit's due and say, yes, the biggest potential is the sound, and they could pull it out if the sound is amazing. And Sonos is the golden example on how somebody can make a device sound amazing for a small form fit. And we don't know. With that said, I think when it comes out, we're still going to think that it's overpriced, but I'm just saying the possibility is there.
I could put this in my kitchen. It's linked to my Amazon account, and when I run out, I can order maple syrup and it can be at my house in 2 days. That is the genius of this. Just by my voice, I'm running out of maple syrup. I need more maple syrup. Hey, blank blank. I need more maple syrup. Order me more, and bingo, it shows up. And then when they start the drone delivery, it'll be there in an hour, so I can have it for my next meal. So that's just Apple doesn't have that.
And absolutely, I think that this is something that I think it was actually Chris that said that everybody's trying to get into it, but I think you said that Amazon has it locked down because they do so much with it that people use. And it's the Amazon factor, and all these other people can't meet that. And that's one of the convenient things about it. So I absolutely agree. I think that this is way too high for them, but I'm not surprised given it's Apple. But I kind of defended them, and now I feel like I need to go throw up.
Well, no, there's nothing wrong with defending them. I mean, it's a Me Too product is how this feels to me. It certainly feels like a Me Too product, and it doesn't do anything different than any of the other digital assistants out there do already. Look at Google Home and the Amazon Echo and things like that. Those are all just extensions of those assistant services out there. This does the same thing. I gave the list of everything Apple said HomePod's going to be great for. You can do that already with these pre-existing devices. Part of what they're trying to do is leverage Apple Music. Like, hey, you love Apple Music. Use this. It's your best way to tie in. It's just $350. I don't see it. And the thing that really concerns me is a lot of people like Steven and I use these as the brains for home automation. This plays with Apple HomeKit, but Apple HomeKit doesn't play with a Wink Hub and many of the other devices that are currently in my home automation. And there's no mentioning of whether they're going to open up this API for developers to create their own applications that exist for the HomePod, similar to what you've seen Amazon and Google do with their devices. So from a home automation standpoint, I don't even have a huge draw other than the fact that this can act as a HomeKit hub. And if you've bought in Apple's HomeKit stuff, you're good.
Yeah, the home thing is the biggest thing for me because I am using an Amazon Echo up in Canada, and it's not officially up in Canada yet. They're just like all the other voice things. They haven't met the criteria that our country puts on it for, I believe it's bilingualism. And so that is where they aren't in, Google aren't in. That's where they all run into the roadblocks because we have very strict restrictions on French needing French support. And so we don't have that. So I can't do the Amazon ordering. I'm not able to do that since I am a Canadian customer. But you're right. The home automation is huge. And that would be a huge showstopper for me if I can't use my home automation system.
You can use Apple's home automation is what it comes down to. If you're bought into Apple's ecosystem for HomeKit, this is great for you because it helps extend that, make it more powerful. You don't have to have a new Apple TV or an iPad that are dedicated to being that HomeKit hub.
All right. So before we get off of this, and I'm going to pick your brain, Chris, to give us a quick snapshot as well on some of the other WWDC things that you saw, because I know you were searching through it, and in the chat, we had people asking some questions. So I'll have you just do a quick snapshot on that. I just got to say, so Siri came out in 2011, right?
Sounds right.
Alexa came out, sorry for everybody, came out in 2014. So she's younger than Siri. So one might say that she's kind of Siri's daughter. So Siri, I really like your daughter.
And don't forget Cortana's in there too, because Microsoft just dropped their speaker that does the exact same thing like 2 weeks ago.
You know, I was making a joke there with that setup, but I actually do think that it's actually kind of surprising how stalled Siri is when you look at some of the progresses that Amazon has made. I feel like Siri has largely stalled in the last couple of years, which is kind of weird because it is Apple. They should be able to push it forward.
Apple sucks at software.
Well, I don't like defending Apple often, but Siri has way more localization. It supports a significant amount more languages. So developing that aspect, I think, is kind of halted innovation down to make it a global product, as where, you know, even some of the Google Now stuff is only a handful of languages. So I think that does factor in.
Yeah, that's a fair statement.
And Google Now is one that I've griped about a few different times because I do really feel like it should be better than it is. And it's even Google Assistant, I know, and even Google Assistant should be better than it was. It was advertises this big change, and really it's not that much better. Okay, so Chris, let's educate everybody. Tell me a little bit about the WWDC stuff.
So they gave some insight into the new iOS that's coming out. I didn't read a ton on it, but it looks like they're redoing the control panel and some incremental updates to make things better. The real interesting thing is they introduced new iMacs with new hardware, but they also introduced the Mac Pro replacements which is the iMac Pro. They've basically taken a professional grade development station for graphics and 3D design and things like that and put it in the body of an iMac. And it looks pretty impressive. It's $5,000, but it looks pretty impressive. And I've seen a bunch of people from the not iPad Pro community, but the Mac Pro community be like, this might be what I was looking for after Apple kind of abandoned the last Mac Pro for 3 years. But the thing that actually interested me the most, no iPhone announcements today. A lot of people were hoping, iPhone 8, maybe we'll hear something. Seems to be pushed off. They're further segmenting out the iPad world, the iPad Pro. They just introduced March of last year, the 9.7-inch iPad Pro. They're replacing that now with, I want to say, about a 10.5-inch iPad Pro. It'll be the exact same form factor, I guess. They're just making the bezels narrower on the sides to give you that bigger screen, with having the A10X processor, which is their new chipset going into these devices. And there will be a refresh of the 13 or 12.9-inch iPad as well.
They also announced an update to the watch as well, I think, with dynamic face changing abilities, which was kind of cool. I thought that was a neat idea because I think we're almost past the point that we want to hide our smartwatches. Like when Chris, you and I first got into it, I think, like, I don't know about you, but I got a lot of people kind of looking at it and questioning it. And, you could read them going, nerd. Like, you could totally read them doing that, right? And so you kind of, I don't know. I ended up putting sort of a standard one on there as well because it was more, I felt like it was a little bit better at the workplace and things like that. But now that it's grown so much and that people are very familiar with Apple Watch, I think it's kind of a good idea to really use that dynamic capability.
What do you mean? I didn't pay much attention to the Apple Watch stuff. What are you meaning by the dynamic capability?
Okay, so what they say it's going to do is it's a new Watch OS that's going to include a dynamic face that changes according to the day and time, and a Siri face using basically to best tailor the display to that user. So I thought that was kind of cool.
They had some dynamic things with like Toy Story characters on the screen in an animated method. So they were like, they had Buzz kind of leaning against the frame of the watch, and the time was up, to the right. So they had some other examples of that. And it was the screen is more positioned different. Like there's some complaints about, angles of looking at it. That's also some things they fixed, and they're calling it Watch OS 4.
Fancy. The other thing I did forget about WWDC, this is the big deal. Amazon Prime Video now. If you want to watch that, you'll be able to watch it on Apple TVs and via the TV app on iOS devices.
What?
Amazon is back on board. My guess is what you're going to get is a stripped down version where you can literally only access your Prime content or anything you've already bought. You will not be able to buy anything via the app, is my guess. That has not been confirmed at this time, though.
I didn't know that, but you're going to be able to watch Amazon Prime Video?
Amazon Prime Video, you will now be able to watch directly on those devices instead of airplaying it from an iPad to an Apple TV.
I think that's really smart because they, I feel like there's a lot of people that I've known who have essentially just been turning their back to Prime because they couldn't get it on their Apple TV. And it's caused me problems. So I've tried to show some people some different things, and they've ended up, I've had to essentially just gone and streamed it from my desktop over. I haven't, because all I've got upstairs is a Chromecast and an Apple TV. So that's exciting. Oh man, I didn't hear about that. That's cool.
That was the long rumored thing that would be happening. And the rumor had been that Amazon would begin selling Apple TVs again. I don't know if that was confirmed today or not. So remember, Amazon had stopped selling Apple TVs at one point in time. They were only selling Fire TV sticks and Fire devices, and I think they started selling Rokus again at one point because part of their spat with Apple was over Apple says we get 30% of transactions that go through our store, which would included video purchases and things like that on Amazon Videos. So Amazon said, we don't want our app. It's never going to go there. And we're not going to sell your device either because we don't like that thought and we're not on it. So the rumor had been, I don't know if it's been confirmed, that once this deal happened to get Amazon Video on those devices, they would then begin selling the Apple TVs again on Amazon.
So then I wonder what that's going to do for Comixology as well.
Well, Comixology's always been a separate thing. They've had that on iOS, but remember they did change the app around so you could only access your library a few years back. You had to go through the web to buy new comics.
Exactly. And that's what I'm wondering, if is this going to change that? Because that's really, because that was one of the worst things about Amazon buying Comixology.
That's probably what they'll do in this case, is just make it, they'll have a thing there. Hey, you want to buy videos? Click this, and it throws open a website in Safari or Chrome or whatever browser you use on your iPad.
Well, that's cool. Lots of really neat stuff that came out. And unfortunately, the biggest WTF was indeed their Amazon knockoff.
Yeah, I mean, really, there's some good stuff that came out of it. It's just the HomePod thing. I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah, a couple of things, Stephen, to hit back. First of all, the Apple Watch or smartwatch in general, a few years ago it was nerds, right? So everybody at work is wearing a smartwatch or a fitness tracker, and everybody is wearing it's more accepted. So Apple Watch, I think, as long as they keep it underneath a certain dollar amount and continue to deliver value, I think there's going to be some value in it. One thing that had concerned me with this WWDC event is I had heard a couple weeks ago that they were going to discontinue the iPad mini, which I have come to love. The big iPad is too big for me. The iPad mini is just a great size, and it went on clearance basically at Best Buy a couple of weeks ago. Now they're still selling them. They haven't discontinued them, but the price got so low that I was worried that they were just going to get rid of them, because I really enjoy this thing, and that still might be coming down the road. But so far, no announcement that I know of on the iPad mini, but I'm keeping my eyes on it.
You're keeping your eyes on the prize.
That's right.
The prize being the iPad mini. Wait, SP's giving away an iPad mini? Is that what we just heard? No, he's not.
No. I'm keeping my eyes on announcements for the iPad mini and any way to get up to join Nate up in space.
That's fair.
Aren't we all? But let's go ahead and wrap up our news here. Thanks for doing that quick crash course on WWDC. I do appreciate that, Chris. I know you were very unprepared for that because I threw it to you randomly.
You are a blind toss, Jondrew.
All right, let's get into a segment we haven't done for a while.
What started out as a simple Facebook debate quickly turned into an expletive-filled off-air Skype battle between our hosts. It's time to settle this argument once and for all, and finally find out who is the bigger geek. It's time for Geek Wars.
Yes, indeed. It is time for another edition of Geek Wars. Geek Wars is the show, the segment where we go and we ask geeky questions, and these three try to find out who is the bigger geek. I'm going to go ahead and ask a bunch of geek questions. I've thought of these questions, and I've tried to add a nice variety. Now, here's the best part about this is usually we end up with a three-way tie, which is especially awesome because then nobody wins, and the whole show is basically a failure, and we just tell people not to download it, or I just hit delete at the end of it.
Haven't I won the last two of these?
That's true. I think I see what you did there. You ended up tricking them. You took 2 years. It was a 2-year setup. That's what it was.
JS and I had a conspiracy theory that a tie was the best.
It still is. It's just easier.
You know, I haven't heard who's won the last couple because they have been deleted, as Steven just said. So I don't know who won. Chris said there's no verification of that.
That's true. Nate is undefeated. That is very true. He is undefeated. So thanks for participating in this, Nate. And let's go ahead and get to question number 1.
Wait,
Cool.
How are we ringing in?
That's true. I forgot the most important part. As we go around and I ask the question, people will have their opportunity to ring in. It is first come, first serve. If that person is wrong, they cannot guess again, but the other 2 players can indeed steal the answer. And everybody will select how they want to ring in. So right now, you are going to choose how you're going to ring in. Let's start off with Stargate Pioneer. How would you like to ring in? Make the sound that you are going to make right now.
Beep.
Okay, so SB is beep. How about you, Nate?
Boop.
And how about Chris?
Chris.
That's so much easier, Chris. So beep is SP. Boop is Nate, and Chris is me. So there we go. Question number one. No, Chris is Chris. Question number one. Terry Ferrell, who played Jadzia Dax in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, left the final season of the series. She joined a sitcom with Ted Danson in a role where, oddly enough, later she was let go and replaced by Nancy Travis. What was the name of this series?
Chris,
what is the name of it?
it was Becker.
Wow! I thought I was starting out with a hard one. I can't believe you got that. Jeez. Did you watch it?
No, I didn't watch it. I just knew she left to go do it. I was like, why would you go do this show? Stay on
This is the one
Star
where
Trek.
he was a doctor.
Yeah, it had some good episodes. It was actually, I watched a bunch of reruns on that. It was pretty good. And yeah, Nancy Travis. I didn't really know her from Becker, anywhere but Becker. So there you go.
Could have been the makeup. A lot of people have adverse reactions to the makeup over time. So, that is a consideration after years and years of doing it.
I was confirming some facts today about it while I was coming up with this question. Why I needed to confirm that fact is beyond me. But I actually read that she wanted to do the final season of DS9, but in a non-regular role. And they just were like,
too.
bye. So there you go. So Chris is at 1, Nate and SP, or Beep and Boop are at 0. Okay, question number 2. This Marvel comic book character has been affiliated with the Avengers, Secret Defenders, and has even been Captain America. Other aliases include John F. Walker and Jack Daniels.
Chris,
All right, Chris, what's your answer?
U.S. agent.
Oh my, wow. Give you one of those. I can't believe you got that. That was a shot in the dark.
I knew it.
You gotta be faster, Boop. You gotta be faster. All right, so question number 3. This iconic sci-fi character was almost originally played by a monkey wearing a mask while holding a cane.
Beep.
All right, Beep. What do you got, SB?
Yoda.
How did you pull that one out? I gotta ask you about that.
It was just, the cane brought it to my memory, but I remember years and years ago listening to Jim Henson about the original concept of Yoda and say, oh no, we could do better than that.
I love the idea of this, especially because when I read this fact, the first thing that came to my mind was, can we imagine the CG version that would have come with the prequels? That would have been amazing.
Monkey.
Yeah, exactly. It would have been incredible.
Butt, right?
There's so much lost potential. But by the way, for those not familiar, Yoda is not technically a Muppet, by the way. Not technically a Muppet.
The original?
People think that he is actually a Muppet, but he was designed and blah, 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 but he is not actually technically a Muppet because some technicality.
Oh, because he was driven underneath?
I don't know. Chris is looking at me like, Steven, you're full of it.
I don't know what the answer is on that one.
It's not a question. I was just saying. It's just fun fact. So,
yeah, I think it was because he was exclusively driven from underneath.
I don't know.
He was operated from underneath. I think that's why.
It could be, yeah. All right, so question number 4. This company began in 1994 and is now a name easily recognized across the world, including in your house.
Chris?
Okay, Chris?
Pixar.
No.
Oh.
Their creator even has a company that is doing space stuff.
Oh.
Beep.
All right, Beep.
I said
Amazon.
That was the gimme. If you guys waited through the pregnant pauses.
See, I thought you were done with the pause. I bit on the fake.
That's the problem with me as the MC is you never really know. Is he done? Is he not done? And so that can throw you off.
I had no idea
It's
Amazon
all
was
fixed.
founded. Was it named Amazon in 1994 or was it named something else and it was transitioned to Amazon?
I think it was started off as Amazon.
Okay. Wow.
Okay, so we've got Beep, which is SP at 2, Chris at 2, and Nate at 22. So there you go.
I see. When you don't answer a question, you get 22 points. I see what it is around here.
All right. So name this general who was a feared Jedi hunter whose body was a weapon.
Boop.
All right, Boop.
Boop. General Grievous.
Oh,
Yep.
got you on the board. Good job, Nate. All right. So let's take a moment here since the person who answered it was going to get blind tossed. I want you to tell us all about General Grievous.
Whoa. General Grievous was I forget his original race, but basically he was in so many fights that he started getting cybernetic replacements, but then realized it would make him a better fighter overall. So he's pretty much all robot now and was able to use lightsabers to kick the crap out of Jedis and collected them as kind of a trophy status. And he had multiple arms, so he could use multiple lightsabers, which made it kind of Darth Maul on crack. I think he used 4 at a time at one point.
And
I believe so.
And which was he in? He was in
3.
Right.
And
And
all
how-
of Clone Wars.
Oh, yes.
The cartoon.
And how did he end up meeting his demise?
I don't
In a very
remember.
uncivilized manner.
Do you remember, Chris?
It was in a very uncivilized manner as Obi-Wan Kenobi shot him in the chest.
Exactly. Anyways, that wasn't part of the question, but I was just curious if you remembered. But there you go. So Nate Boop is at 1, Beep SP is at 2, and Chris is at 2. Next one that we've got here, there's an iconic story about a Star Trek original series cast member named Nichelle Nichols who resigned after season 1. She reconsidered this after someone very important convinced her otherwise. Chris just barely beat you, SP. Chris.
Martin Luther King Jr.
Sorry, say that again.
Martin Luther King Jr.
There you go. Yeah, I've known about that fact for a long time, but I just came across it on like one of those like 100 fact websites, and I think that that's such a phenomenal story, and you know the motivations were so good. And can you imagine though, Star Trek original series, if the majority of that entire history did not have Uhura?
There's so much with the original series, not just with Uhura, but with everybody else. I mean, take a look at the pilot. Spock wasn't even in it. And Spock's such a pivotal character that has really transformed the entire Star Trek universe. Nichelle Nichols there, a female on the bridge. You had mixed race Kiss, the first ever on TV. Star Trek is very iconic for a lot of things that honestly just went wrong. And they were able to just make hay with it. And it's just amazing that Gene Roddenberry's vision allowed that to happen. So good on Star Trek for making that happen. And Nichelle Nichols, thank you very much for gracing us with your presence for all these decades.
Yeah.
And fun fact, Kirk wasn't even the first captain.
No.
That's correct.
No. What was it?
April.
Pike.
Robert April.
Robert April, yeah.
No, Pike's movie.
Wait, no, was it Pike?
It was April, then Pike, then Kirk, if I recall correctly. Or was it the other way? I don't remember.
I think Pike was the pilot. And then I think April was written in into
April
continuity.
was the pirate, and I don't know. It doesn't matter. We'll figure it out later.
Oh, well.
Chat room, let us know.
Tell us how wrong
guide.
we are.
I'm right.
All right. So next one that we've got here, not to be confused with a character of similar name. What other name does Shazam go by?
Beep.
All right, Beep. What do you got?
Captain Marvel?
Oh, yeah. Wow. That was... So this is, of course, one of my favorite characters because it is a DC Comics character named Captain Marvel, which, of course, is... If I remember correctly, that obviously it's after the quote Marvel family, but wasn't it supposed to be a big FU to Marvel?
Thought they bought it from some other company.
But I thought they bought it for that purpose, no? Or am I wrong?
I don't know. That sounds like a good story. I hope you're right.
I don't know. Well, let's just make it canon right now. So there you go.
Let's do it.
Well done. So Beep is at 3, Chris is at 3, and Nate is at 1. which means that Nate will not win because this is the last question, which was released in September 2016. This version of Mac OS replaced El Capitan.
Beep.
Okay, Beep, what do you got?
Simba?
No, that is incorrect.
Boop.
Nate. Okay, Boop, what do you got?
Mufasa.
That is incorrect. Close. Not close. Chris, do you care to wager, I guess? Come on.
I know it as soon as it's
You got
said.
nothing
It's
to
something
lose.
to do with surfing.
You got nothing to lose here.
Say
Well,
scar and
I'll just
complete
go
the-
through out rant Chris.
Okay,
I'm going to
Chris.
say Yosemite just because
it
I'm
is not
sure.
Yosemite. Unfortunately, it is indeed Sierra.
Oh,
Sierra.
Was close.
You're always close to that answer, but that's going to go ahead and wrap up Geek Wars. That's right. We ended with Chris with 3, SP with 2, and Nate with 1.
What? I only had 3.
You did not.
3.
Did you have 3?
I did.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
had
sorry.
3.
So we
I'm
got a
pretty
tie.
sure it was a tie.
Okay, we got a tie. Well, then whatever. I didn't update my spreadsheet. It doesn't really matter because I was going to give Nate extra bonus points for being so much cooler than you two.
I
And
got
there's
Christopher- I
the
got
delay
the-
from space.
It's true. Yeah. We didn't factor that in.
Well, that was a fun episode there, and I tried to shake it up this time. Go with some other things, some things that weren't so obvious, and you guys did very well considering. Out of the questions, we got 7 of them correct. So great job. You guys are all geeks.
Captain April was the first captain of the USS Enterprise.
But
Just pointing that out.
first,
Check
yes,
the chat.
continuity-wise, yes. However, I believe the first captain that we saw on screen.
You're gonna squabble.
That's what I was saying.
That's
No, I thought that's what we were talking about.
I'm out of here.
Okay, good. So, for episode number 195 of the official GonnaGeek.com. No, I'm just thanks so much, Nate, for coming on here today. We had a lot of fun. And Nate, I just want to give you a moment here to, again, talk about yourself, plug yourself, promote yourself.
So I'm the Ninja Fat Man on pretty much every single social media. My podcast that we just ended a run of, Doom Ninja Podcast, is still available on iTunes if you like indie gaming or you want to see a bunch of games you've never heard of. Listen to that, and you can even watch it on YouTube. And I will be announcing some streaming related podcasts soon.
Awesome. Chris, do you got anything that you want to plug or promote?
Yeah, make sure you go check out all the cool shows over on the Gonna Geek Network over at GonnaGeekNetwork.com. But if you want to talk about Wonder Woman, Starling Tribune, we've got that video up for you from a live conversation about the latest Wonder Woman movie. Head on over to youtube.com/GonnaGeek. It's probably the second or third video from the top. Go check it out. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. And before we get to SB, I'm just going to take a moment here to say thank you very much to the Starling Tribune, to Chris and SB and Michelle for inviting me and Nightwing on last week to talk about the year in review of Arrow, The Flash, and also Supergirl. So thanks. It was a ton of fun. And there was a lot of good conversation had. It was a very long episode, but lots of good conversation.
That episode should be out in about another month or so when the editor actually gets through it, since it was so long. But in the meantime, I just want to pump all the podcasts on the network. Just want to call out a couple specifically. Doctor Who is ending its series soon, and Galford Public Radio is covering that. So if you like Doctor Who, go check out GPR, as we like to call it. Also, Game of Thrones is set to go here soon. Tyrion's Landing covers that. So we got a lot of podcasts on the network. Just go to GonnaGeek.com and click on the podcast network icon. You will find all the shows that are currently running on the network.
Awesome. Well, thanks again to Nate for coming on here. We had a ton of fun, and we'll have to have you back again soon. And maybe next time you'll be in the desert or something.
Ooh.
I'll be from another secret location.
How about C-Lab 2023?
What about the Poké
It's not
Dome?
a secret anymore, SP, thanks.
Okay, so let's do this for real this time for episode 195 of the official GonnaGeek.com show. I'm Stephen Jondrew saying next week is either going to be a success or a colossal failure.
And I'm SP saying have a great week and give your loved ones a kiss.
And I'm Chris Ferrell saying, WTF, Apple, $350?
And I'm the Ninja Fat Man saying,
He lagged out. Bye.
Thanks for checking out another episode of the GonnaGeek.com show. If you enjoyed it, please give us a 5-star review in iTunes or a thumbs up on YouTube. We encourage you to send your feedback by email to show@GonnaGeek.com. You can find our entire archive at GonnaGeek.com/show. And while you're there, why not check out all of the other geeky content on the Gonna Geek Network? Want to chime into our live chat? Join us Mondays at 8:45 p.m. Eastern at www.geeks.live. The music heard on this show is by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. This show was produced and edited by Stephen Jondrew of Gonna Geek Productions. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.